Ollie didn't even notice it happening consciously the first few times. He only realized it when he thought back about it later. He would leave his apartment, turn off the light on the way out, and as he did so, he heard some music turn on. Which, Ollie lives in an apartment building. Sometimes there are noises from the other apartments. Overall, he felt pretty lucky. The walls were pretty thick, the ceilings and floors were pretty thick. He didn't get a lot of noise from the other apartments. And I was pretty sure that was true. And it's always possible that he just had quiet neighbors. But he never heard anybody mention or complaining about, hearing everything from the neighbor's house. But after the fourth or fifth time, Ollie started to recognize it as a pattern. He especially noticed it one night when he was he was already home and he was going to bed. And he walked over to turn off the light. And the music started. At first he thought, well, maybe it's something in my apartment. I'm just not noticing. He tried to walk around and identify the location of the sound, the source of the sound. He thought at first maybe it was his phone or his computer that was playing some video or something. But it wasn't that. He didn't really use his TV much these days, but that was off. I tried to think if he had anything else that would make music play. Nothing came to mind. He did check his phone. One thought was maybe like the phone was connected to the Bluetooth and the headphones were, I don't know, sitting on a aluminum can and that was amplifying it. Anyway, the Bluetooth was not connected to any headphones and that wasn't it. But it wasn't particularly loud. I don't know, I just was pretty tired. It was a pretty big day. So he went to bed. But I started noticing it more and more. So one day, maybe the sixth or seventh time he noticed it, he decided to test it. He stood there, turned everything off, closed the window so it was quiet, and turned the light off. A split second later, music started playing. He turned the light back on, and the music stopped. He turned it off, and the music started. What was going on here? He did that a few more times, and was satisfied that it was in fact cause and effect. Somehow, by turning off the light, he was turning on some music, but how? I remembered that he had one trick up his sleeve that humans couldn't use while investigating where sounds are coming from. And he climbed up on the wall. He realized he could even, just barely, but he could cling to the ceiling and still reach the light switch. So he did that a bit, turned the light on and off from the wall and the ceiling, until he became pretty sure that the sound was coming from above him. I thought, well, maybe I can sometimes hear something from the other apartments. Then I realized it was pretty easy to poke at that theory. He left the light off and went out of his apartment, up the stairs to the floor right above, and walked over to the apartment that would be directly above his. He listened next to the door, and there was definitely music playing. And it was the same music. All right. So the music's coming from my upstairs neighbor. But, wait, why does my light switch turn on their music? Just to be sure, he went back downstairs again, turned off his light, came back upstairs, and the music was off. A little awkward, I thought, but I'm just going to have to knock on the door. So he went downstairs, turned his light switch off, so the music would be playing, went upstairs, and knocked on the door. At first, nobody answered. It was, 5:30 in the afternoon. So, people might be home, people might not be home. Well, I knocked again, just to be sure, and figured he'd come back later if they weren't there. And I heard a little voice say, "Just a moment, I'll be right there, hold on." So Ollie waited. After about a minute, maybe two, he heard the lock, unlock, and open the door. And then the door opened. And there was a little old man. He was using a walker. That's a mobility issues, clearly. Still getting around. And I could hear the music playing loud and clear now. I said, "Hi. Sorry to bother you. My name's Ollie the Octopus." "Oh, yeah, you live here in the building, right? I think I've seen you around some. I've been here a while." Yeah, I live actually right downstairs below you." "Nice to meet you, Ollie. My name's Herbert. What can I do for you? Would you like to come in?" I said, "Sure." And he walked in, and Herbert closed the door behind him. I said, "So, always welcome to visit any time, but what brings you up my way today?" I said, "Well, I was curious about the music." "Oh, that old thing. Yeah. I mean, it's a good radio station. They're always playing good stuff. It's jazz, but like some of the big band stuff and some of the swing band stuff. They'll occasionally get into some of the newer age jazz, but mostly they stick to the classics. I'm not as old as I look. I wasn't actually around when these like 20s and 30s jazz bands were making their records, but I do love the music." I said, "Huh, it's interesting. What radio station is it?" I said, "Oh, it's 94.1 WBMZA. "Okay," I thought. "Interesting. I'll check that out. I do like it. It's not something I listen to all the time, but I can see getting into that. Yeah, stick it in your repertoire. There's some good stuff there. I used to have a bunch of records, but it became a little impractical to use a record machine, and, well, between computers and this radio station, I don't need them anymore, so I sold them to a collector here in town. They were happy to get them. It was a good collection. Had some rare things in there, had some classics. And, they gave me a couple $100 for it. I thought it was fair. Yeah, I'm sure they were happy to get that. So I wanted to ask, because, you're here because you can hear it downstairs. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to have it so loud. Oh, that's okay, Ollie said. I can hear it a little bit, but it's faint. Not nearly enough to bother me. And I can only mostly hear it when I'm at my front door. Anywhere else in the apartment, like in my bedroom or even in the kitchen, you can't hear it. Oh, that's good. I'm glad to hear it. So you're just curious about it? Well, yes, and I'm curious about one thing in particular. It's not on all the time. No. It seems to turn on, yes, when I turn my main light switch off. You're kidding. I said, No. Well, that explains something I've been trying to figure out for weeks. So wait, you're saying my radio cutting in and out is happening because you're turning your light switch on and off, you think? Hold on, we gotta test this. Hold on. You have a cell phone? I said, yeah. All right. Let me call you. You walk downstairs, turn it off. We're going to make sure this is happening. This is unbelievable, but I got to know for sure. All right, Ollie said. So they exchanged numbers. Ollie called him. And Ollie walked down around the stairs, opened his own apartment. All right, Herbert, you ready? I'm going to turn my light switch back on. And Ollie flipped it. Well, doggone it, that's what it is. And today, you've been flipping it on and off. I said, yeah, I was trying to figure out what's going on. Hold on, I'll come back up. Ollie came back up. Well, let's take a look at this thing then. I thought this thing was just on the fritz. I guess it still is on the fritz. It still counts as on the fritz. But hold on a second here. Can you bring that over to my coffee table? The whole radio? I looked at it, and it didn't look that heavy. It was about the size of a toaster oven. Sure, Ollie said. And he unplugged it and carried it over. The coffee table was lower, and Herbert could reach the coffee table easily from the chairs, despite being a little bit having some mobility issues. See, Ollie, back when I was a working man, now I've been retired for years now, but back when I was a working man, one thing I used to do was service electronics. In the later part of my careers, I was actually building custom computers and stuff like that, which was fun. But really, the old radios and stuff, and some car electronics too. That's where I really cut my teeth. That's my bread and butter. So let's take a look here. And he pulled a little tool bag out from under the coffee table and started unscrewing the cover to the radio. Here, hold that. Okay, there you go. You would lift that up a little bit. Yeah, perfect. All of a sudden, Ollie was helping an old electronics expert dismantle an antique radio. It was not the way he thought his afternoon was going to go, but he was into it. Okay, let's take a look here. Over on my kitchen table, there's a little flashlight. Can you grab that for me? And I walked over and grabbed the flashlight. Okay, shine that right down. There, you see it? I see it. Do you see the problem, Mr. Ollie? It looks a little burnt. It does. It does. It's got a little short circuit right there in the power circuit. Yep, that's part of the switch. Okay. So you see what's happened here. So I've got a little short circuit in my radio. I think it's missing its connection a little bit. And when you turn your light switch off, it gives me a little bit more voltage up here, and that's enough to make it arc and complete the circuit and turn on. But when your light is on, I bet they're on the same circuit breaker, then, yep, that's got to be it. Then I'm getting a little bit less voltage, and so it can't make the jump. Oh, I said, is it fixable? It sure is. Actually, it should be pretty easy. He pulled out another little thing of parts, had a little bunch of wire. And Herbert picked out some braided wire. He said, here, actually, if you can take these tweezers and hold that bit there. And I took some more instructions, and they were soon patching the power cable in. And then Herbert got out a soldering iron and added some solder. And then he got this little can of like a Plastidip type stuff. Now, if you're doing this, you got to make sure you got the right type of coating. Because if you get the wrong type, it can melt and burn and ruin the whole device. But if you do it right, it makes everything a lot more robust. I bet this won't break again for the whole lifetime of this radio. So they got the coating on, they reassembled the radio, and Ollie put it back in and plugged it in. All right, well, it's playing now. Now go downstairs and turn off your light. Turn on your light. And Ollie went downstairs and turned on the light. And he couldn't help it. He was excited. He had to see it. He practically ran back up the stairs. When he got there, the radio was still playing. Hey! High five. We did it. We solved it. That's great, Ollie said. Well, that was fun. Well, here's the thing. We're not quite done. Because now we need to make a call to the superintendent of the building, because there shouldn't be that strong of an electrical connection between your apartment and mine. So I think they need to do some work. But that's work they can do. That's work they can pay for. You and I have earned our keep. A little bit late caffeine, but I think this calls for a cup of herbal tea. Would you like to join me? I thought I'd like that very much, Herbert. I'd like to hear a little bit more about what your career looked like. Oh, well, you flatter an old man asking me for stories. And that was the case of Ollie and the musical light.